Hey everybody, this is Jason, Colorado Mountain Man Survival. I'm out in the wilderness for my first day of the survival challenge out here with students. I'm also call it the Advanced Survival Week. So you can take it as a standalone class for 7 days, or it's my test week for my 50-day students. As a standalone class, I'm here to help you when you need help with the challenge part. If you're a 50-day student, then you take the class without my help. So what we do out here for the 7 days is the people for the challenge or the test are out here performing tasks, and it's their final test to see if they pass that 50-day class. They're going to do things like start a primitive fire with a bow drill or a hand drill. They're going to build a primitive shelter. They're going to procure food. They're going to make frog spears. They're going to collect wild edibles. They're going to make stone tools. They've got about 13 or 14 tasks that they got to complete. And when they complete that task with the primitive tool, they gain the modern tool 24 hours later. So for instance, if they build a bow drill fire and get a coal and get a fire started, 24 hours later, they get a ferro rod. Now you can say that this challenge actually started 4 days ago. We started out at my base camp, which is about 10 miles away, and we hiked to this advanced location. So we went through some rugged mountain terrain. The students at that point could have all their gear over that 4 days. You know, they get their shelter, they get their food, and their water purifiers, and everything that you would need for camping and hiking. It's 10 miles, took us 4 days. It's a pretty rugged hike, but it's not that hard. The reason it takes us 4 days is because we stop along the way and we learn some skills or practice some skills before we get to this location. Once we get here, last night was the last day of the 4-day hike. They had a good dinner, they had a comfortable night's sleep. We woke up this morning about 7 a.m. Everybody had a little bit of breakfast. Then we broke camp, and then the test began. So I walked away from them a couple hours ago. I set up camp at another location about a quarter mile away from them. And while they're doing their test, I'm out here right now. I'm staying. I get the privilege of staying in my Luxor of shelters. I got my war bonnet out here. They do not get a shelter. They have to build a shelter for the night, assuming they want to stay in somewhere comfortable in a shelter. I do start them out. They start out with a ferro rod. Sorry, not a ferro rod. They start out with a knife. They start out with an individual first aid kit. I like to call it a trauma kit. There's no band-aids. It's a proper trauma kit. They start out with a scarf or shemagh, and I also give them a couple of mylar blankets. And that's all they get day one, and then now they have to complete tasks to further their materials tomorrow. With Colorado's lack of resources, with Colorado's lack of leaves on the ground, it's a bit different than carrying or than being able to gather leaves to make a primitive shelter. It's quite difficult out here to waterproof a shelter, which is why I give them mylar blankets. They're not the best of materials, but that's what some people carry in their kits when they go out on a day hike. It's not a very effective tool, but it is a tool. But they get to use those in the start of their shelters. I'm gonna go head up the river here and go check them out. The resources down here are a lot more prevalent, which is why I run the class here. We've got oak trees, we've got willows, we've got cottonwood, there's aspen, there's pine, there's spruce. We've got dozens of wild edibles and berry trees. We've got raspberries, there's currant or gooseberries, there's wild onion, there's probably at least 20 or 30 different wild edibles. Plus we have a nice mountain stream behind us that has fish and crawdads. It makes it a little bit more easy, but it's still quite a challenge for these guys, especially considering they have minimal tools. But anyways, day one for our survival challenge or our advanced survival week. I'm gonna go up right now. They've had a couple hours. I'm gonna go up and check in on them and see if they've accomplished any tasks. So come along with me and let's see how well they did. So this year I have 2 students taking the survival test or survival challenge. Matt took it last year. Matt was my 50-day student last year, my apprentice this year. And David is the 50-day student this year. Last year I had 4 students that took the class, 3 for a standalone class, and then Matt as my apprentice. Looks like they dug a couple seep wells here. This is a water collection point. This is to help with purify water. With the soil out here, it's not the best method, but it is a way. But really, you probably have better chance of not getting sick drinking that water, but it is one of their challenges, and they do know that this type of soil, get out of there, this type of soil is not the best. Clay is the best to dig a well like this in so that the water is drinkable right out of the hole. Here would be just a water collection point that's not that. It does a little bit of filtering, but probably not enough. Anyways, I'm gonna go see what they got going on next. So it looks like Matt started his shelter. Found some old timbers, huh?
Yep.
Nice.
I found some old timbers, and I'm thinking doing one more weave around here, do some going this way, trying to put the emergency blanket in there, and then trying to rebuild kind of the same thing over the top to pinch it.
Cool.
Since I don't have any way to hold it.
Right on. That's a pretty cool idea. Give it a shot.
We'll see.
Yeah. You got your seep wells done?
Oh yeah, I got that done at 10:20.
I saw those down there.
Yeah, the one I couldn't get deep enough, and the water was just running through and eroding the side in.
Is that the one down here?
The crossing.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
cool.
2 of them.
Cool. Yeah. Are those both yours?
Yeah.
There's David's seep well. Let's go over to David's camp, or where he's selected for his camp. And some poison plants right there. Some edible plants right there. More edibles. Poison. Edible. So here's where he selected for his camp. Looks like he's using a couple notches in the trees to hold those branches up with some clematis vine to kind of keep in place, but this should be sturdy enough. Yeah, here's his camp. There's the river. Well, I'll leave him alone and let him get to it, and I'll come back in a few hours to see what else they've completed. So it's the evening of day 1. The guys haven't checked in for the night. I figured they would to turn in some other tasks. I'm sure they got some done, but I'll see what they did in the morning unless they come by a little bit later tonight. It's probably about 7 o'clock. The sun's going down. Today Matt caught some food, made a fishing spear. He probably finished his shelter and dug a seep well. David got his seep well done, finished his shelter, finished his leaf litter bed, and when I left he was working on his bow drill fire. So hopefully they both got fire. I'm pretty sure Matt did. He's pretty proficient at fire, and David's pretty good as well. So hopefully they got their bow drill fires done, and they'll be able to collect those rewards tomorrow. But signing off for the night. I'll see you guys in the morning. Spoke too soon. You probably can't see me, but they both came in and checked in about 5 minutes after I signed off from you. It's actually 8:15 now, not 7 o'clock. Let's see, David got a seat well, a shelter, built a leaf bed, caught a crawfish, got his bow drill fire, and made a reflective wall for his shelter. Whereas Matt got his seat well, made a fish spear, caught a crawdad, made a basket, and his basket had to be big enough to fit his boot. Collected 10 wild edibles to make a meal. Let's see, he got his bow drill fire, made a leaf bed for him to sleep in, built his shelter, finished his shelter, and a reflective wall for his shelter. So both of them got their shelters decked out, got a little something to eat for the night, and got their fire started. So knocked some stuff out on day one. Keep in mind what Matt I would say is a student of survival. He's been training with me for 3 years, so he's pretty proficient, and he's done a bunch of other training with other people and gone to some pretty cool events. David is all new, brand new. Never done anything like this before, so for him to get these knocked out on day one, his only training has been the last 43 days with me, so I think he did pretty well. But anyways, I'm signing off for the night again. I will see you in the morning.